Trump. We are joined live this morning with his third child, his son, Mr. Eric Trump. Good morning, Eric. How are you?
Hey guys, good to be back on. I wish I was there with you in Wisconsin.
Hey, whenever you want to come back, Eric, we're here waiting on you. Thank you again for joining us.
I would love it.
So, speaking of which, you were here last in July for the Republican National Convention. We're going to get straight to this, Eric. How are you feeling? How is your father's campaign feeling? How's your father feeling about where we are right now in this campaign since the RNC?
Yeah. Guys, we feel really good. I mean, I think we spoke a little bit about this last time when we were obviously sitting there together in person, but you know, the country's getting more and more unaffordable. Dreams are slipping away in this country. Everybody feels it. There isn't a single person listening to us right now. I mean, you know, get rid of all the noise and fluff about politics for a second, but there isn't a single person listening to us right now who can afford anything in this country, right? I mean, right now, somebody's filling up their gas, and it's 3 times as expensive as under my father. They're, you know, trying to buy a home. You know, mortgage rates are 8% versus 2.5% under my father. Inflation, you know, is 6, 7, 8. You know, 9% under my father is 1.4%. The cost of bacon, the cost of eggs, the cost of absolutely everything. And guys, these aren't expenses that you can negotiate, right? I mean, you can't negotiate auto insurance. You need it. You can't negotiate home insurance. You need it. You can't negotiate your utility bills. And the price of everything is crushing people. And, you know, you've got an administration right now that comes out and says, yes, well, you know, on day one, we're going to focus on the prices. And everybody in the country universally is sitting there saying, where have you guys been? Where have you been over the last 3.5 years as everybody in this country has gotten absolutely crushed, and people are feeling it, and people think that they've been lied to. Joe Biden is sitting on a beach right now while my father is laying a wreath at Arlington National Cemetery for, you know, the 30-year anniversary of Abbeygate. You know, they're not working, they're not fighting. There's chaos in the Middle East. There's chaos all over the place. You've got, you know, Venezuelan gangs right now in Colorado who are kicking Americans out of their homes, out of housing projects right now, and just taking them over, and they're not doing a damn thing about it. I mean, our country is falling into chaos and lawlessness and total disorder. People can't live the American dream. People can't afford to live. People haven't gotten pay increases in this country at all. I mean, you know, wage growth in this country has been stagnant. You know, so you can have a party that goes out there and promises everything to everyone, but people in their heart know exactly what's happening right now. They can feel it, and I don't think they're going to be fooled by people who promise to do something different when the very people that are promising to do something different are the ones in power right now.
Eric, thanks for joining us again. We are joined with Eric Trump. And Eric, when we spoke during the RNC, it was a time where there was an assassination attempt on your father's life, and he had an arguably large lead in every poll over sitting President Joe Biden. Now things have changed. The race has gotten tighter. What adjustments do your father and the Trump campaign, what adjustments are being made to maybe get some more separation in the polls?
Yeah, guys, listen, I think you see the separation right now. I mean, obviously, when we were together, you know, it was a couple days before Joe Biden got ousted, you know, for lack of a better term. And then there was certainly a honeymoon period, and I think that's faded, and I think it's faded awfully quickly, right? It's really hard for somebody to go out there. First of all, their convention didn't do that well, right? But it's really hard for somebody to go out there and say, hey, I'm going to take care of the border. My first day, I'm going to take care of the border when you've had 13 million people come in under your watch when your borders are. There's, you know, minority communities all over the country, and just communities in general, but especially minority communities who are sitting there saying, you know, there are 13 million people who came into this country who are now, you know, and by the way, certain cities are allowing this, who are now taking our homes. They're now taking housing. You know, we've been on lists to get certain housing for years, and now all of a sudden people are jumping to the top of the list, and they just came over, you know, an imaginary border, you know, 2 weeks ago. I said in my RNC speech, guys, I think you and I talked about this because, you know, when we spoke, but I mean, you literally have veterans in this country who are sleeping under bridges, and you have illegal immigrants who are being housed in the most expensive hotels in New York City on taxpayer dollars. Like, that's not fair. That's not fair. And the very people who are putting together these policies are the people who are running, and then they come out and they lie to the American people and say, hey, we're going to take this very seriously. Well, if you're going to take this very seriously, then, why didn't you start 3.5 years ago? If you're going to take it very seriously, when my father built the wall, he built 600 miles of wall, but he had the rest of the steel constructed, right? Or the rest of the steel was all built and it was laying there. All they needed to do is effectively stand it upright. Why did you sell it for scrap metal? Why were you flying people into the country in the middle of the night on private planes? And, this hurts everybody in this country, but it certainly hurts minority communities probably disproportionately more. And they better answer for it. And I think it's one of the reasons that you see the support sway as much as it has toward my father from communities that historically just haven't supported the Republican Party. It's because of this. It's because of the wages. I just spoke about it. It's because of the costs of everything. If people are losing the American dream in this country, there's no question about it. Our standing on the world stage is diminishing in so many regards. We're being laughed at all around the world, and you've got countries like China who want to take over the number one position. They want to take it over, and they want to take it over desperately, guys. They want to be the language of the world. They want to be the currency of the world. And we're not doing a damn thing about it. I mean, we're debating whether or not 6'5", women should be, men should be able to swim in women's collegiate sports. It's, these have been the topics of focus over the last 3.5 years, not how do we make Americans wealthy? How do we make Americans prosper? How do we make sure that everybody can take a great vacation? How do we make sure that, people's wages vastly outpace inflation? The exact opposite is happening right now.
We are joined live with Eric Trump, son of former President Donald Trump, who is the Republican national candidate for the President of the United States. Now, Eric, we so appreciate your time. We know you're busy. Are you able to just hold for this next break and we come back? I just have one more question because I know you're very busy and you've got to move on to the next thing. Are you
absolutely, guys. Okay. It'd be my honor.
Thank you so much, Eric. When we come back, we're going to ask Eric Trump, why should Black Americans vote for former President Donald Trump during this upcoming presidential election? When we come back, stay tuned. We're going to hear more from Eric Trump, son of former president and current Republican national candidate for President of the United States. Stay locked in. We'll be back.
It is Truth Be Told with DT and Telly on 1017 The Truth, The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com.
Good morning, Truth Nation. You are listening to the best morning show on planet Earth, Truth Be Told with DT and Telly. We are joined live by Eric Trump, who is an American businessman, activist, and former reality television presenter. He is the third child and second son of former president, the 45th president of the United States, and Savanna Trump. Donald Trump, we have Eric Trump live on the air. Good morning, Eric. Thank you again for holding. Glad that you are here with us today.
Guys, I love being on.
Well, thank you. And before break, Eric, I wanted to ask this question. So let's just get right to it. You're busy, and I know that our listeners have a lot of questions, but primarily, here's the reality. And Eric, just consider the source. But according to the New York Times and the Washington Post, Black America right now is leaning more towards Madam Vice President to be the next president of the United States. Based on that, has anything changed in terms of areas of impact and importance to focus on with Black Americans? And also, why should Black America vote for your father during this upcoming presidential election?
Yeah. The Democratic Party, like it or not, and obviously, it traditionally, obviously, the majority of African American, voters have voted for the party, and it comes out of a very different time in this country and a different time that's totally understandable. But if you look at today, look at what my father's done. My father put such an emphasis on, look at criminal justice reform. Something you had Biden running around calling African Americans in this country 20 years ago super predators. My father put together the largest criminal justice reform. I mean, all the acts that he put together, helping people who had been wrongfully imprisoned, doing so much, right? And that's one thing. Second of all, how much is the basic economy, right? And I'm a nuts and bolts guy, right? I hate the political jargon. But I don't care if you're black or brown or white or orange or green. I mean, we're all Americans. And what do we want? We want to have the strongest country in the world. We want to have the best education in the world. We want to have school choice. We want to be able to send our kids and have them educated in the best schools. We want safe streets. What's my father's whole campaign been about? And it's one of the reasons, guys, that my father's doing so well with the African-American vote. I mean, many times what any Republican has ever gotten. I mean, many, many times. People want safe streets. People want great policing. People, my father's a guy who totally understands that people in this country have been persecuted and prosecuted relentlessly because he's become one of them, right? And he's fighting against the same system that so many people in impoverished communities have fought against for so long. These relentless prosecutors, the craziness that we've seen. Again, I go back to the to so much of that legislation that he put through, to try and help people who were wrongfully imprisoned. But again, it comes down to the economy. People want to be able to live. People want to be able to have the American dream. People want to be able to walk down the street without getting mugged, without getting shot. And you look at so many of the places in this country. Look at Chicago. Look at Milwaukee. I mean, look at so many of the problems there. I mean, my father wants to have the safest streets anywhere in the world. He wants to have the strongest country in the world. He wants to have the best education in the world. And I think that's a platform that, regardless of race, people can stand behind. And look at the other side. It's just lawlessness with them. No one's getting ahead. In fact, people's homes are getting stolen right now by people who shouldn't even be in this country. And everybody knows that. Everybody knows that under Donald Trump, you actually had a fighter for America and a fighter for law and order. And no one's seeing that with this administration. They've had 3.5 years, and they haven't done a damn thing. And so I just can't stand these false promises of change. They're there right now. If you really want to change all the things that we're talking about, start today. Start today. But they won't. They just won't. It's going to be empty promises, and everybody feels that. And I think it's why we're going to get the most African-American support of any candidate in the history of this country.
We're being joined live by Eric Trump on Truth Be Told with DT and Telly. And Eric, we're going to get you out of here with this one. Just really quick, what are your expectations with the upcoming debate in 7 days between your father, former President Donald Trump, and Madam Vice President Kamala Harris? Outside of everything that, we may think that are, the administration is doing now versus what they're doing now. Debates, I think Americans are looking for, okay, how are we going to move this country forward? What are we going to do moving forward? Not necessarily focusing on things that have happened in the past. With that being said, what do you expect with this upcoming debate in 7 days?
I think you're going to have one person who focuses on having the strongest economy in the world, having the strongest military in the world, getting out of these endless wars, having peace and stability in the Middle East, which we don't have right now since my father left office. It's turned into an absolute disaster. Putting Americans first, putting Americans before others, closing up the southern border, stopping the drug pandemic across this country, stopping the fentanyl that killed 300,000 children, stopping the senseless murders all over the place. That's what my father wants. My father wants America to be number one at everything we do: education, healthcare, the economy, wages, upward mobility, the American dream. He wants us to be number one. And on the other side, I'm not even sure what the other party stands for anymore. Every policy has brought this country backward, and everybody in their soul knows that. They feel it. They just feel it, guys. They feel it in their pocketbook. They feel it in their families. They feel it in their homes. They feel it when they're having to work a second job and a third job. Everyone in this country is feeling it right now, and hopefully that stark contrast will come out in the debates.
Eric, thank you once again so much for making the time to join us here at The Truth. We appreciate your time. Eric Trump, son of the 45th President of the United States, and Ivana Trump.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, Eric. And you can join
love
anytime.
Being with you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
I love it. We'll do it again.
Sounds
Bye,
great.
guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Eric Trump, former President Donald Trump's third child and second son, giving us his perspective on what has shifted, what we can expect from former President Trump during the upcoming debate, as well as the areas of focus for the Black community.